Hello everyone, welcome back to Study Room. In this video, we will be talking about speciation, that is basically the formation of species and how the species are formed due to the different kind of factors or the different concepts that are related to the formation of species will be discussed in this video. So let us see what is speciation. Speciation is a process by which new species form. Okay, so here you can see that these birds look very similar to each other. So maybe they have originated from they have originated from the original species which was there. They have originated from the same species. Okay, because they look very similar, but the the difference that they have is the difference that is have is they have the difference of beaks. Okay, you can see here they have different kinds of beaks. So their beaks are basically due to the feeding habits that they have, and they have eventually maybe evolved from the original species due to the competition of food. Okay, so when there was competition of there was limited resources of food, one kind of food, then what they did was they developed different other feeding habits, and they started to evolve from the original species. And hence gradually after so many millions of years, what we can find that in nature these different kinds of birds with different beaks existed. Okay, so this is how new species are formed from species that are originally existed, and these species are basically formed due to certain natural factors like limited resources, limited food, etc. And here this is a very good example, and so also example of Darwin's finches. Okay, so Darwin was the one who introduced this example, where he saw that the birds known as finches, they had different kind of beaks. They, although they look very similar, but their beaks were different, and from that he derived the concept of the concept of the Darwin's finches, where he said that these birds actually originated from one similar kind of a species, and they evolved based on their feeding habits. Next up, we will be seeing the illustration of beetles. Okay, suppose earlier there was a species of beetle living on land A. Okay, and here we can see there's this population of beetles that are existing here, and they are divided by a river. Okay, and when these two populations are divided on the basis of land, these beetles are going that side, and they are they're divided, they're separated, um, and this separation is an environmental separation, a factor that is working here, the river that is flowing in between. And these beetles then again they adapt to the environment that is there on the either side of the river, and they adapt to the different environments, and hence they evolve differently, right? So these beetles will evolve according to the environment that is there on this side of the river, and these beetles will actually evolve with the with respect to the environment that is there in this side of the river. So they will evolve into different kind of beetles based on the environment that they are exposed to, right? Now, what causes speciation? So we saw about these geographic isolation that we can see here, that there was this original population, and from that population a small population is getting it is getting divided, it is getting away, and with course of time, with course of time this population is adapting some other variations, and is evolving in some other way, and hence it changes to a different population. You see, the color here was green, and when it got separated it was green in color, but then with passage of time, it actually changed to blue color. So it formed a different species. So geographic isolation is one of the factors which actually influences the formation of different species. The next up we have reproductive isolation. So here there was original population, and then there is a geographic barrier that we have. Okay, so due to this geographic barrier, what happens is there are certain changes that occurs in the reproductive habits of the population due to the environment that is there in the either side of the barrier, and due to this we have this reproductive isolation that occurs here, and the species gets they get acquainted with the environment that is there in this side of the barrier, and hence they develop in some other characters, they develop some new characters due to the environmental stress that they face here, and hence they become a different species. So here you can see the two different species are being formed. So this is how, with passage of time, the new species are formed, and this is also a factor in the formation of species. The next factor that we have is natural selection. As we studied about Darwin's finches before also, I explained you, this is the same example that is given here. Natural selection can result in organisms that are more likely to survive and reproduce and may eventually lead to speciation. So here you can see that these ancestor birds, and due to the feeding habits, see here they are insect feeding, they are wood pecking, and they are seed eating. So due to the feeding habits, they are actually they go through a change in the size of their beak, based on the feeding habit, and hence they form entirely new species due to the change in their beak, right? Here we can see another factor, that is genetic drift, that we had studied in the previous video as well. So the genetic drift is basically the change in the frequency of an existing gene variant in a population, which would genetic drift would cause rapid genetic change in the small population, and this genetic change could lead to speciation. Okay, so here you can see that how this green beetle was there, and this yellow beetles was there. This population has two kind of beetles, but since this green beetle is getting picked up by the crows and picked up by the predators, and they are becoming very less in number, and advertently the other kind of beetles, the yellow beetles, are growing their population size is growing, and they're producing more in number, and hence eventually what happens is the yellow beetles, they become more in number, and the green beetles are basically reduced in number in the population, right? So this is how the genetic drift is also a factor in the cause of speciation. Now we will be discussing about the in-text questions. The first question that we have is, what factors could lead to the rise of a new species? The factors that would lead to the rise of a new species are the following: geographical isolation of a population caused by various types of barriers. And the second one that we had was genetic drift, caused by the drastic changes in the frequency of particular genes by chance alone. And the third one was variations, that is caused by the individuals due to natural selection. Also there were factors like reproductive isolation, geographical barriers. So we studied all these things here in this video, and you can just go back and list out the factors that are helpful and are leading to the rise of a new species. The next question that we have is, will geographical isolation be a major factor in the speciation of a self-pollinating plant species? Why or why not? The geographical isolation cannot be a major factor in the speciation of a self-pollinating plant species because it does not have to look the plants for its process of reproduction to be carried out. So hence geographical isolation is not a major factor here. The next question that we have is, why are the small numbers of surviving tigers a cause of worry from the point of view of genetics? So geographical isolation cannot be a major factor. In this video, we eventually studied about all the types of factors that are affecting speciation, and what was speciation, and how different kinds of species are being formed from and are evolving from the original species. So we studied all about speciation in this video. Thank you so much.